What's going on, everybody? It's your boy itzDMel. We're back again with another NBA video. We're finally taking a break from the quizzes. We're going to start experimenting with some other types of videos as well. But, today we're going to be playing Start Bench Cut. Shout out to Hoop Goat, one of my favorite websites to kind of just like do everything from tier lists to little trivia games, that kind of stuff. We're going to do some Start Bench Cut. If you don't know what Start Bench Cut is, it's very self-explanatory. I'm not even going to sit here and explain it. You will literally understand it within the first minute of the video. Let's get into it right now, baby. All right, so first off, we got Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, and Jalen Brunson. All right, now, this is tough, right? Obviously, all three shining young players currently in the league. All three are franchise players. All three are all-stars, but in my opinion, I would personally take, you can go a few different ways about this. You go, hey, like, who am I going to take to carry my franchise? You can go based on, who's just the better player. You can go just on, who do you like the most? That kind of thing. But I'm going to go based off of who I would take to, like, if I'm trying to win. If I'm a GM of a team, I'm trying to win, right? So I'm going to take Devin Booker, starting Devin Booker, right? Now, this is where it gets kind of controversial, right? You have two players with Anthony Edwards and Jalen Brunson that both actually have some similar success in the playoffs. Jalen Brunson, obviously with the Knicks, and Anthony Edwards with the Timberwolves, they've had some really good moments. Jalen Brunson does have that experience as well in Dallas when he was playing alongside Luka. Did have one of those iconic games where he was going crazy in the absence of Luka and kind of was really becoming their primary option at that point, which really kind of showed us at that point what he was really capable of when he was the primary option. Obviously, that was before he ended up joining the Knicks. So this might be a hot take. I know Jalen Brunson arguably has more experience, but I'm going to take Anthony Edwards, and then I'm going to take I'm going to be cutting Jalen Brunson. Now, hear me out. I think that Anthony Edwards, in my opinion, has the potential, keep in mind, to be the next face of the NBA. I don't know if he's going to do it or not, but I think he has the personality, he has the swag, he has the highlights, he puts up great numbers, team plays well, but we got to see, because, when you think of players that are like face of the league, you're thinking about players that they're getting to the finals and they're eventually competing, they're consistently competing for a championship. And I don't know if Anthony Edwards is necessarily going to be on that kind of timeline with the Timberwolves. We're going to have to wait and see ultimately at the end of the day. But yeah, all right, so let's get to the next one. All right, so this one, we got Chris Bosh, Kevin Love, and Wembanyama. Mr. Wemby, listen. I don't care if any GM did this differently than what I'm about to say, they should be fired. I'll start at Wemby, obviously, has the potential to be one of the greatest of all time, literally. Chris Bosh, I'm putting him on the bench. Kevin Love, I'm cutting. Simple. And 66% of the people agree with me, so let's rock. I consider that a pretty solid take. All right. Next, we got this one's good. We got James Harden, we got Kevin Durant, and we got Tracy McGrady. Now listen, Tracy McGrady, if we're talking about just skill, we're talking about players, we're not factoring in things like winning and team success, that kind of thing. Tracy McGrady arguably is one of the better players of all time. When you look at a person like Tracy McGrady, what could he not do? What could he not do? You're talking about a big two guard, playmaking abilities, shooting abilities, post-ups, rebounding, defense. What could he not do? So, but ultimately, at the end of the day, you got to prioritize what you prioritize. And again, I'm going to be prioritizing winning in this situation. So I'm going to be doing Kevin Durant, and I'm going to be benching James Harden, which in my opinion, James Harden is the, after D-Wade, after Kobe, not in that order, after Kobe, after MJ, after D-Wade, not in that order. I think James Harden's arguably number 4 all time in shooting guards. So you got to put James Harden, and then T-Mac. 76% of the people agree with me. People putting T-Mac ahead of Harden, 19% of y'all. I'm not mad at it, but I just don't agree. At the end of the day, we can just disagree. That's it. We just agree to disagree and just move on. All right, next. Okay, this is where we get spicy. This is where we're going to get spicy. We got Charles Barkley, we got Karl Malone, and we got Giannis. So all-time power forwards right here, right? So when you look at the winning aspect, Giannis has a championship. Karl Malone and Charles Barkley do not. So let me double check. I'm like pretty confident. But yeah, Karl Malone, Charles Barkley does not have a ring. Giannis does at the end of the day. And again, we're talking about winning. So Giannis, you get that starting spot, in my opinion. And genuinely, when I'm talking about best power forwards of all time, Tim Duncan's number one. After Tim Duncan, it might be Giannis. You could genuinely make an argument based on how Giannis has been playing. Obviously, consistently has his team in contention. The Bucks, top team in the East consistently. You have and again, that ring really just like gets him over the top. And not only was he the champion, but like he was hooping in that championship. But yeah, then you got Charles Barkley, who's a very successful player in his own right. Obviously a person that literally brought a team to the finals by himself. Obviously, he had like the Dan Marleys of the world, the Kevin Johnsons of the world, but it was his team, and it wasn't like it was no disputing that. You had Karl Malone, and Karl Malone obviously was the guy on Utah as well. But some people you could make an argument, like it was more of a dynamic duo instead of just Karl Malone carrying the team. So I'm gonna take Charles Barkley on the bench, and I'm gonna cut Karl Malone. 55% of the people agree. I fully understand the 34% that put Malone ahead of Barkley. I get it. I'm just glad that nobody, the 5% that put Malone ahead of Giannis, y'all are some old heads. All right. So next, we got Pascal, we got Bam Adebayo, and we got Kristaps Porzingis. Now listen. I am a Porzingis fan. So this is tough. I'm taking Porzingis. Okay, so this one's interesting. I'm personally taking Kristaps, then I'm taking Siakam, and then taking Bam. Now hear me out. Kristaps, champion. Siakam, champion. Now obviously, you have to factor in team success and that kind of thing. If we're talking who I think is the better player, I'd probably do Bam, Kristaps, then Siakam. But I think players when Kristaps and Siakam, they're all such good plug-in guys, though. This is tough. This one's tough. Don't get me wrong. This was tough. Next, Jokic, Chamberlain, and Olajuwon. Now listen. People gonna say what they want about Jokic, and I know that Jokic, he's going through some voter fatigue right now. Currently in the league with his MVPs and everything. You gotta factor, man. He's won the MVPs, the triple doubles. He's balling. He's one of the best players of all time, and people aren't even really talking about it for real. I'm putting Jokic number one. Hey, listen. Y'all might get on me for that. We're gonna see in the next. This is tough. Chamberlain, Mr. 100 points in a game, or Hakeem Olajuwon? At the end of the day, I'm taking Hakeem. Okay. And 25% of people agree with me. A lot of people actually had Hakeem number one. Wow, the most amount of people had Hakeem number one, which I can actually understand. But Jokic just the numbers speak for themselves. And then when you look at his playmaking, you look at his shooting, you look at his offensive capabilities. Obviously, Hakeem was just as good defensively and as like a shot blocker, as a rebounder as well. But Jokic is doing things that we've never seen from the center position. Genuinely, and it's actually insane. But yeah, listen, I fully get it, and I wouldn't be mad. People putting putting Jokic last is crazy. But yeah, we're gonna go next. Okay. So we got D Wade, we got Allen Iverson, and we got Carmelo Anthony. Now with these, listen, D Wade, in my opinion, is the third best shooting guard of all time. Allen Iverson, in my opinion, is number 5 shooting guards all time. And Carmelo Anthony is another top 75 NBA player. But, he's on the echelon. So, at the end of the day, I'm cutting Carmelo Anthony, right? That's between D-Wade and Iverson. And for that reason, listen, I I feel like this is very fair. This is a very fair rating. D Wade, you have the multiple championships. His single championship with his single championship with Shaq in 2006 kind of carries if you're talking about D Wade as a solo player. But let's not forget, before he teamed up with LeBron, D Wade was that fucking guy for years. He was that guy. And when they won the ring with Shaq wasn't Lakers Shaq. D Wade was the guy on that team. But you know, hey, we're gonna keep it pushing. Ooh, we got okay. This is interesting. So we got. Wait a minute. I just realized something. Nah, I'm bugging. Okay, I thought that instead of Michael Beasley, I thought that said Michael Porter Jr. And I was like, okay, like all wings, all young, all like relatively young wings. Like let's get interesting here. Scotty Barnes, Andrew Wiggins, Scotty Barnes, Andrew Wiggins, and Michael Beasley. I'm cutting Beasley. Listen, he's just not as good as the other two guys. I'm starting Wiggins for the defense, and then I'm cutting Scotty Barnes. I mean, I'm benching Scotty Barnes, not cutting. So I'm starting Wiggins, benching Scotty Barnes, and cutting Michael Beasley. Okay. Next. Okay, we got the centers. You know, none of these three centers are in that top tier of centers all time. Your Shaqs, your Kareems, your Chamberlains, your Bill Russells, but they're in that next tier. They are in that next tier of centers. If you really think about like all time at that position, you got Patrick Ewing, one of the most iconic Knicks of all time. You got Alonzo Mourning, an incredibly solid player, did end up winning a championship on that Heat team as well. And then you got Yao Ming. Obviously, if it wasn't for injuries, you can make an argument that Yao Ming would have been one of the best centers of all time. What he was doing at his height, we had never really seen before, genuinely. And like he was just such a dominant force in the early 2000s. Actually, not in the later. He's such a dominant force in the late 2000s. So you know what? This one, they're actually relatively close all time, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go off of who I'd want to pick, right? Patrick Ewing. I will bench Yao Ming, which might be a hot take. And then I'm cutting Alonzo Mourning. Okay, you listen, hey, 56%. Hey, I think that means I would think, not that really it matters if what other people think. You know, at the end of the day, your opinion is your opinion, and it's just as valid as anybody else's. But, you know, it's good to know that, like, you know, the majority of the people that play disagree with me. But I can see how people would put Alonzo over Yao Ming. I fully get it. All right. And this is going to be the last one that we do for this video. So we got De'Aaron Fox, we got John Wall, and we got Tyrese Maxey. All really quality, all-star level point guards. Not in that top point guard echelon. Obviously, John Wall. When we're talking about John Wall, we're talking about like in like concept of things, and like during his time in the league. But you know, you have De'Aaron Fox, arguably the fastest player that we've seen in a very long time, if not ever, in the league. And then you got John Wall, you know, iconic player, #1 pick, Washington Wizards stud. If it wasn't for injuries, man, I think him, Derrick Rose, and Westbrook were on a they were competing. They were genuinely competing for that top point guard spot at that time. And then you got Tyrese Maxey, who currently right now he's not like in that top echelon of point guards, but you know he's right there with like your Darius Garlands, right? He's putting up an insane amount. He's putting up some insane numbers right now for Philadelphia, especially in the absence of Joel Embiid, and really proving himself as a solid #1 option. So you know what? For me, I got to think about defense. De'Aaron Fox arguably is the best defender of this list. So, you know, this might be a hot take here. I'm cutting Tyrese Maxey. And now, the main reason is because if we're talking about all-around players, I would take De'Aaron Fox and John Wall as better all-around players than Maxey. But again, like, I love Maxey. This was tough. So, I'm starting... Because, man, John Wall in his prime was putting up, like, 22 and 9. Easy. De'Aaron Fox is more like he's trying to put up like 25 and 6. Like John Wall was averaging damn near double-double. Was a better playmaker. De'Aaron Fox arguably a better defender. Both athletic guards. De'Aaron Fox is a better shooter though. Because De'Aaron Fox, if you think about it, De'Aaron Fox be shooting that thing. So you know what? I'm going to start De'Aaron Fox, Like both Kentucky, also Kentucky products, by the way. Even though I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan, so to me it's we not messing with BBM, but shout out to them anyways for putting out some great talented point guards like these three. We're gonna rock with this. This one's interesting. 6 people agree with me. Wow. Okay. They had John Wall first, then De'Aaron. That's like what the majority had. I would take De'Aaron. He's not as good of a playmaker as John Wall. I think he's a better I think he's a better defender than John Wall. I think he's more athletic than John Wall. I think he's a way better shooter than John Wall. And I think he creates a shot a little better than John Wall. But that might just be me. It's the last one that we got for this video. Again, I appreciate y'all for coming through. We're grinding on this channel right now, itzDMel Hoops. There's a lot of basketball creators out there, man. But, this is a huge thing for me. I love the NBA. I love basketball. So at the end of the day, I'm trying to just gain my knowledge by kind of doing these videos and gain my knowledge of not only the current NBA, but of the history of the league. And I appreciate y'all for checking out the videos and messing with the kid. Feel free to subscribe down below and then like up the video and drop a comment as well. I'll see y'all in the future. Peace.